Good morning, councillors, Worship the Mayor, staff and guests of the Chamber. Welcome to Projects and Monitoring Committee 24-1. With that, I declare the meeting open. As our protocol, I'll open with a karakia. Apologise for some astute te reo speakers in the house today, so I'll have to excuse my attempt. Whakatau mai te wairoa, whakawātea mai te hine ngā rū, whakareti te tinana, kia ia ai ngā mahi, ai. I'll work on it. With that, apologies. Appears we have a full house today, so no apologies. There are no late items. I just call any declarations of interest. Tracy?
Look, Don, I just wanted to say I think it's pretty, well, people know that I live in Te Puna, as do you, and I just wanted to say I don't believe I have any conflict of interest. However, I would always make my decisions based on facts and work for all of Western Bay ratepayers. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Tracy. It's everyone's obligation to manage those, so that's well done. Thank you. There are no public excluded items. I move to the public forum, and as far as I know, we just have one speaker. Gentlemen, would you four like to come forward up the front? And I'll hand it over to you, Neville. You can run the ship for the next 5 minutes. All you got to do is push that red button in front of you, Neville, when you're speaking, and then everyone can hear it. Oh, have you got a speaker in front of you? There's one there. Sorry about that.
I don't know how to read these things. Tēnā kōrua, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko takatimu te waka, ko mau te maunga, ko taranga te moana, ko Ngāti Ranganui te iwi, ko Pitarākau te hapu, ko Poutātarangi te marae, ko Neville Bidua tuku ingoa. In relation to to our presentation, it's a privilege to be asked by my fellow kaumātua to have this kōrero to use about Puka Whāneke and what it means to us and to the hapu and to the wider community. We, in some way, are all connected to Puka Whāneke, being the home of the start of our progenitor Ranganui, who is the son of the captain of the waka that arrived in Tauranga, Tamati Poko Whenua, and his second wife, Ihu Parapara. And they had a son, Ranganui, who settled it on Puka Whāneke Pā, and through the centuries down to now, it's had its good times, bad times, been overrun by Te Waru in about the 16th century, Raitarangi, but Ranganui still has existed up there until the Bush campaigns in the 1800s or 1863, where it was all confiscated, and from then on, with the arrival of the missionaries, it is recorded in church archives. There's an estimated population of about 2,000 people going from the north face, going right up the plateau, right up across where the main road is. And so the importance of not only Puka Whāneke Pā, but all the surrounding areas. You've got your swampland areas, the Te Ako stream on the western side, Tahataro out on the northern face. On the eastern side, you've got the Awa, Wairua River. And over the years, it it's had its sad times. For example, in 1965, koiwi were discovered on the north to east side of the pa, and when they took the earth away for the abundance for the Wairau Bridge, it is recorded by Peter Rolleston, his father, is recorded in his diaries how bones were found, put in sacks, left on the side of the road, and the Maoris from the other side of the river come and got them to return them. In those days, there's no protection for that sort of thing. And then it's just gone on and on, where the mana of Puke Whanake has been trampled on, and it hasn't been recognised up until only a few years ago, when development started occurring there in the early 2000s, roughly 2002. The late Peter Rolleston, on behalf of our hapu, he represented the hapu in the Environment Court. Judge Smith, he was officiate of that court, and it's recorded he reluctantly agreed to any development going down in that Station Road area because of the significance of what could be. Well, it's always been passed down orally that Tuturinga, the son of Ranganui, he is buried at Tahataro. He was buried away from prying eyes, but his wish to be buried there was because he wanted to hear the murmur of the waves from the Taronga Moana. So all the way through it's had that history. And now with the development going on, you may be aware, in the last 20 years, a lot of the talk that has been passed down, oral history that has been passed down, it has been proven by development. Development is starting to unearth what the past sites and the surrounding areas hold. And with the last year or so, with the, I'm involved with Priority Tipuna, as a lot of you know, but it gave the opportunity for the hapu to put in, hapu members to put in supporting our cause, to stop the development, because we know what's there. And like I say, it's not till development starts uplifting it. You may be aware in the last month or so, development has unearthed koiwi up to Metea Road, only a stone's throw away from the north face of Puke Whanake. So far, the count is up to 15 koiwi we've found so far. And I can't go into detail, but we are putting things in place now to start and turning from next Saturday on. But it's all that. Now, getting back to the reason why we don't want to see Puke Whanake suffer any more damage. She's suffered enough now. We've got climate change. Climate change last year has exposed her vulnerability. Now, when that come down, I went down I was invited by Bob Leaf from Ngāti Taka to assist him. I didn't have anything to do with the hapu at that time, but we met Callum down there. We had a meeting with Callum. I couldn't speak on behalf of the hapu, but Bob insisted that day that it should be closed. What has come down there could be anything in there. There could be koiwi, but that material was taken away with no consultation to the hapu, without no monitoring. There could have been, they found the koiwi in 1965, just along from there. So there could have been stuff hidden in that, but thankfully, we had a meeting with John Hollier on January the 13th this year. And it was a very warm meeting, and it gave the opportunity for the Kawairunga to express their thoughts back to the council on what they thought. And I must thank John for that, for coming along and listening to our concerns. He come along, he walked along with me, and he looked at the face of what's all ready to come down. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see it. The slips on the side of the road, there's a colony of shags that have been living there for hundreds and hundreds of years. There, any more slips, they're liable to be wiped out. But the biggest thing, I'll just finish up by saying that the hapu, they do not agree. We do not agree, and we represent the hapu, the Kawairunga. We represent the hapu under our constitution. There is a clause there where the kaumātua we've triggered a clause where we are there in a guardianship role to protect the kawa, mana, tikanga, reo, and tuanga of our hapu. And that's why we're sitting here. We're here to protect that, not only for the hapu members, but for the wider community. And for those who don't know the history of the area, hey, for them too to, hey, we've got 2 years to listen with and only one tongue to talk with, So, you can listen a lot more than you can talk. And so, as in saying that, on behalf of the Kawairunga and the hapu members in the wider community, we do not support any opening of that road, and we have been nice about it. We have made the right approaches to John Kennedy. We're making the right approach here, Kānui to Kānui, and we know that we have other recourse we can take, but I'm pretty sure there's enough common sense sitting around this table to listen to our concerns. And our concerns stem from a culture point of view, environment point of view, ecological point of view, and most of all, a safety point of view, because we wouldn't like our puke whāneke to be tarnished with a reputation of having a slip and someone on a push bike or getting caught up in it. And kia ora.
Thank you very much, Neville. Councillors, is there any questions you have for the Speaker? Councillor Anne Henry.
Kia ora and welcome. And thank you for that brief but very interesting history. I didn't know. I was aware, but I didn't know. I'm just wondering if, I've got two questions. Clark Road, would any of what you're talking about down on the river bank and up onto the hill extend over into Clark Road in terms of, historical items that might be...
I have looked at a report from the Heritage and Culture a few years ago, and just going off memory, puke whāneke itself is under protection, under the Heritage and Culture, 1993 Cultural Act. It's all waihi tapu.
All of it, yeah.
The whole.
You don't know what you don't know.
You do not know until, as I said before, development uncovers.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Uncovers that.
So yes, the answer's highly likely, but you don't know. So the other question is, if we close the road permanently, there will be activity. Are you averse to activity like walking and cycling happening down there, or how do you feel about that?
Well, that would have to be a decision made on the marae.
Because that is the intention.
On the marae, yeah, by the Kawairunga and hapu members.
So that will come up again for another meeting if you do not agree. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Margaret Murray-Bench.
Thank you, sir. Might I say, Neville, it's wonderful to see you in a leadership role, and your kaumātuas are wise to have placed you there. So I just lovely to see you. I would like to ask you on the history of the iwi and the hapu, Te Puna Station Road generally is a low-lying, swampy area. How much was the iwi involved when decisions were made on Te Puna Station Road generally and its development?
From what I've read in the last few months, and I've only sort of gotten to it since I've been involved with the Kawairunga and with the Priority Te Puna, the developer applied to the council too, for he was doing things illegally, and he applied for resource consent to start the business development off, and went to the Environment Court, and the decisions come out, I think in July, June. That's Judge Smith's rulings come out, and the Pitarako hapu were involved up to there, and Peter Rolleston, I believe, represented the hapu in court, and he reluctantly, the hapu, they didn't want anything to do with it, but Judge Smith made slight changes, and late Peter Rolleston, he reluctantly agreed to the slight variations on certain conditions. One, for example, was 3 hectares of planting in the wetlands area. 18 years later, as I presented in the Environment Court last year, in our opposition towards Barry Daniels, 18 years later, those trees should have been 100 foot tall and they're ready to mill, but not one tree planted. Another thing that Peter insisted on was water quality testing with the Western Bay. They agreed, Western Bay, it's in the court rulings, Western Bay District Council agreed to, and the Regional Bay of Plenty Council agreed to do regular monitoring of the water. Not one council member after 18 years could produce to me a report showing any water quality test in the area down in the area of Station Road. So all along, in good faith, Peter Rolleston in good faith, and no doubt the good faith stems from the Treaty of Waitangi. He sat in good faith and agreed to these, reluctantly agreed to, and hey, it's all a wetlands area, but now demographics has changed in the last 18 years. I never thought I'd ever see climate change 5 years ago, but I certainly believe it now. Station Road, the damage that's been done to that wetland area now, 40,000 cubic metres of fill being put in there illegally. That's choked off the whole of the Te Akua Valley right up to the Minden. It's, every time it rains, the water level comes up. In fact, I had a request from Councillor Nee from the Regional Bay of Plenty Council. I had a request from her 2 weeks ago. She saw evidence that I presented into the Environment Court rulings, into the Environment Court just before Christmas. Right. And now she is requesting information. She wants the videos of the floods and that I took down there. She wants video evidence of that.
Thank you, Neil. Yep. Thank you for that input. We're starting to stray into a different field of work, which probably for another day, so we'll stick to the road. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming in. No other words from any of the other members? Neville said it all? Oh, JJ, you got it. Yep. Push the button.
It's not going.
It's on green, I don't know what that is.
Well, kia ora koutou. I look up there and look at the little wording there, mātua tātou iwi for our people. Kia ora tātou. But I'm Billy Burrell and I'm the oldest out of this lot. And but I don't like to speak too much, but I'll be brief with what I want to say. And that at the time that the Hātāro argument was going on, we were all focused on what was happening at Hātāro, and we didn't want that to be turned into a marina. We all went to the court case. Eventually, we settled that. It was settled. And I think the council knows what happened there. But what I'm saying is that while we were doing that, fighting for our funeral at Tautaro, the place where our tupuna is buried, other things were going on that I was unaware what was happening on Station Road. But I was unaware of what was happening there. There was no, and all of a sudden, the Station Road consent was given, or the land was sold, or something happened there. And then all I saw was the trucks coming in, bringing in the fill. And I was unaware what was going on there. But what I was saying is that while we were busy with our other, things were happening there, a lot of us didn't know about. That's what I'm just saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you very much, guys, coming in. With that, I'll let you take your seats to the side. And Callum, are you likely to come up, be part of the engineering team for the side of it? Right, councillors, I will direct your attention from page 6 on. There's a pretty comprehensive report there. This has been in our discussions for a fair bit. So I'm about to open up for questions, but I'm going to start with the very first question because I'm sitting here and it's one of the first elephants in the room, and that is called Clark Road. And so my question, Callum, is us as the roading authority, do we have any power to close the bottom end of Clark Road for 3 hours a day in the morning AM? Do we have that power?
You could close the road under temporary traffic management for 3 hours a day, but it would be expensive. In terms of the long-term solution for keeping heavy traffic off of Clark Road, it might be better to implement a heavy vehicle ban. That would have to be done as part of a review of the traffic and parking enforcement bylaw, which I think is next scheduled for sometime next year. So their answer is yes, it could in theory be done, but it might be expensive.
I guess it's partially heavy vehicles and it's partially frustrated driver behaviour, which is leading to the increase in traffic. Right, councillors, please stick to questions at this stage and then we'll open up. You can have a fair crack at what you feel about the whole issue. Coxie.
Don, just on that, doing that, yeah, that sounds really good for Clark Road, but what about Te Puna Road? Because where does all that traffic go? And Te Puna Road already has a ridiculous increase in heavy traffic going down Te Puna Road. And also, obviously, you know, what you would call rat runners, all going down there as well. So, I mean, I don't think you can do something to benefit one road and disadvantage another, personally. What do you think, Callum? I mean, that would impact 100%. That would impact on Te Puna Road.
Yeah.
So for Te Puna Business Park, once resource consents are issued for Te Puna Business Park, it's likely that the conditions would be that traffic use Te Puna Road to access the Minden, currently the State Highway 2 Minden Road roundabout, and then in 2027, once TNL is open, that's how they would then access TNL. So long-term Te Puna Road is the proper route for vehicles to and from Te Puna Business Park.
Well done, Callum, for seeing the question in that. Well done. Councillor Murray Bench.
Thank you, sir. Callum, if we close Te Puna Station Road that then means all that traffic has to go somewhere else. And the argument has been that it's great for State Highway 2 because it means that people can move more freely. But in closing Station Road, it means then that the rat runners then use Clark Road and create exactly the same problem as we've got at Te Puna Station Road. Is that not correct?
So the route runners typically use that route when there's hold-ups on State Highway. That scenario is only going to be for the next 3 years until the TNL is open, and then once the TNL is open, then you'll see a drop-off in the traffic using what is currently State Highway 2. And really, there would be no need for rat running because the road would be less likely to be tailbacks, subject to tailbacks and delays.
Right, I've got councillor Henry followed by councillor Joyce.
Somewhere along the line, there's been some oversight with what we've been allowing to happen within our rohe. And I mean, Te Puna Business Park on that road, in terms of the road and what we've heard today about the cultural significance and the bank falling away, the climate change and all that sort of stuff, how is heavy traffic going to continually go over that road to get to access to their business on that road going along the river? I mean, I don't think it's designed, it's not going to cope with heavy traffic.
So I've been involved in review of each of the resource consent applications that have come in for Te Puna Business Park. For each one, the requirement has been that heavy vehicles not use Te Puna Station Road to access Te Puna Business Park. If consent were issued, then conditions would be put in place requiring that you use Te Puna Road to access Te Puna Business Park. If Te Puna Station Road was opened, then heavy vehicles from Te Puna Business Park would only be permitted to use Te Puna Station Road to access the State Highway, not access the business park from the State Highway.
From what road would they access it? And
So that all vehicles would have to access the business park from Te Puna Road.
okay.
So this is not a one-off event, right? So Te Puna Station Road's been washed out a number of times. If we fix it, do we really think it would be durable? Will it actually last through the next few heavy storms?
So there's two issues. There's overslips, which is material dropping down from Puki Whanaki. And then there's underslips, which is basically washouts caused by the river washing out the bank and encroaching upon the road. The washouts caused by the river are pretty much a symptom of climate change. As climate change continues and the environment gets worse, then we can expect those type of washouts to increase.
On Clark Road, because we've obviously got some problems there, you've talked about doing a heavy traffic ban potentially at the next bylaw review. I mean, that's a long way away for people living in Clark Road. Could we do it sooner? Yeah, is there a way to do that without waiting for that scheduled bylaw review in a couple of years?
No, it would be difficult. I mean, you could implement temporary traffic management to try and slow the traffic down, to try and control it better, but it would be very difficult to ban heavy vehicles from Clark Road until you have the heavy vehicle ban in place.
And one, I don't think it's for you, Callum, but I'll take it from whichever staff member it is. We've heard this morning that water quality testing was promised and never delivered. So has anyone on council staff taken that one up? We heard from the Hapu this morning that 18 years ago water quality testing was promised by the council. I realise probably none of the staff and very few other councillors would have been around then, but it seems something we should pick up and check that we're keeping to our commitment there.
Yes, I can comment that the regional council have usually been tagged for water quality, and Deputy CEO CE is shaking her head in agreement with that. So, but Cedric wishes to speak.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just mindful that that today we're talking about the temporary opening or leaving Te Puna Station Road to remain closed. That's the focus on today, on the temporary short term. As you'll recall, we discussed in the LTP workshops the long-term plan, and we agreed in terms of what we were going to propose for that for consultation. So I'm just mindful that this conversation is purely about the temporary arrangement for Te Puna Station Road, and then we've got the long-term focus within the LTP and out for consultation.
Thank you for that, Cedric. Keep me on focus here. Keep me on focus. Thank you for that.
With kindness.
Yeah, well done. It was very delicately handled. Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir, and the clarification there, but that doesn't take us away from the actual issue. And the issue is that we've got one hell of a problem there. So my question basically is, well, first of all, I just feel whilst this is what we're meant to be debating, and that's very clear, we need to start opening our minds to being able to move on and create a better solution. So to me, I'm still wondering about the opening. The temporary opening is going to still cost a hell of a lot of money, quite frankly, and is not, even over the next 3 years, 2.5 years or whatever it is till 2027 and the new road is opened, we stand potential losses from further issues. So my question is, what can we do about closing off the bottom end of Clark Road, and what can we do about improving the actual intersection of Te Puna Road and Te Puna Station Road to get on with it and not be spending money in somewhere that's possibly going to hit us hard in the future. It could be the day after you've done it, sort of thing. It might never happen. I understand that, but I feel better money could be spent there, or I want to know your view on whether the money spent there could be better put into getting that corner intersection sorted.
So the first point is, so the money that we would spend reinstating Te Puna Station Road and repairing the damage caused by the storms, that money couldn't then be used to upgrade an intersection. They come out of different funding pots from Waka Kotahi. So one would be emergency response, the other one would be probably low cost, low risk. So it's not, you can't transfer money from one pot and then put it into another pot. That's Waka Kotahi's gift, if you like. The second point is the Te Puna Station Road, Te Puna Road upgrade is a structure plan requirement. So under the district plan, it's a requirement on the developers of the business park to upgrade that intersection. Now, I know that there's discussions going on with the developers at the moment as to work out a solution whereby the developers reach an agreement to upgrade that intersection, and then basically address one of the barriers to getting a consent for the development. So it's a work in progress. Intersection improvements at Te Puna Station Road, Te Puna Road, but at the moment it's not council's liability to upgrade that intersection. It's the liability for the developers of the Te Puna Business Park.
Right, Councillor Wickers.
Yeah, just reading in the report that in the middle of last year, in this committee, the decision was made to, the view was to one lane eastbound traffic for a period, and that was middle of last year for 6 to 12 months. So has something changed that that the recommendation now would be to close it, just to understand that?
So there's an issues and options paper going to council for consideration as the part of the long-term plan. So I guess the reasoning is it doesn't make sense to spend money reopening the road if, as part of the long-term plan consideration, council then decides to permanently close the road. So it's really about considering the future of considering the long-term future of Te Puna Station Road and basically maintaining the status quo until that decision has been made.
Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Chair. Am I correct in recalling a statement that I've sure I've heard here that there are already conditions on traffic flows on the existing properties down there in the industrial park that say that they cannot use Clark Road for heavy traffic?
No, there's only one resource consent being issued with respect to one of the properties on Te Puna Station Road, and what that condition says that they can't use the Te Puna Station Road, Te Puna Road intersection because it hasn't been upgraded. So with Te Puna Station Road closed, the only legal way that they can access State Highway 2 is via Clark Road.
Yeah, okay, so that was the thing I was recalling. So if we make a decision today to permanently close the section of road, then we are forcing the people to drive their heavy trucks up Clark Road because they have no other legal way of accessing their properties. Is that correct?
Only until such point that Te Puna Station Road, Te Puna Road intersection is upgraded.
Which is how far away?
I can't confirm when that might happen at the moment.
No, so legally we are then going to force all heavy traffic up Clark Road, pending our decision today.
Not all heavy traffic, just heavy traffic from the one property, which has a consent requiring that they not use Te Puna Station Road, Te Puna Road.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Right, I just clarify one item. Councillor Granger used the word permanent in his question, and if you read the opening paragraph, which Cedric has pointed to, it does talk about the proposal to extend the temporary prohibition of vehicular traffic from that section of Station Road until such time as the long-term future has been declared. So really permanent's not part of the discussion today unless someone moves it to that extent shortly when we debate the topic. Councillor Coxie.
Callum, so the property you're talking about with the restriction on trucks, that doesn't preclude the fact that they have trucks under different branding going up and down our road and Te Puna Road all the time. So how does that get monitored?
Well, I mean, I guess what we would do is we would monitor what trucks are entering and exiting the premises and then what direction they're going. Are they turning right when they leave the property, or are they going left? Which, if they turn left, they could only then go down onto Clark Road. Transportation section is not responsible for monitoring the consent conditions, so I mean, all I can do is investigate and report back.
So just something else I wanted to point out. So according to the vehicle movements on Clark Road, there was 950, the number had increased to 956, and that's, taken some time, about 6 months ago. It was 3 times that much for Te Puna Road. So if you're talking about what you're talking about eventually, then that's adding, let's say, another 1,000 at least vehicle movements onto Te Puna Road on top of the tripling of traffic they've already had. That road, in my opinion, and I would be interested in yours, is not capable of taking that kind of traffic. So is there another alternative?
So if Te Puna Road is undersized for the amount of traffic that we expect to use it, then what we would have to do is develop a project to upgrade the road to take the additional traffic. I mean, the issue with the structure plan is it's 10 years old, so the structure plan may have assumed traffic projections which are no longer viable. So I guess what's required is a review of Te Puna Road, establish what areas need to be addressed to accommodate the additional traffic, and then make those upgrades.
Right, I think the discussion of resource consents and that has pricked the ears of Alison, so she's going to contribute something to answer some of the questions, or maybe?
Yes, thank you, Mr Chair. So I'm conscious a number of the questions that have been raised by councillors are in relation to activities that are occurring on Te Puna Station Road, both ones which are currently non-compliant and others that are consented. So Callum did touch on the fact that we have got one property owner who has got a resource consent. They have got a consent for transporter movements to go through Clark Road. It's not all truck movements. And we are currently engaging with that consent holder around looking at variation or amendment of their consent. So when you're considering this particular activity, you have to think that there is actually other things in progress as well. So my suggestion to you, councillors, is to consider what's on the face of you here today, rather than looking at getting into some of the resource consenting matters that we are dealing with through separate processes. But I'm happy to answer any questions on those.
Right, I've got a couple of people indicating they have questions before we look to move towards the recommendations there on page 6 and then open the debate for that. But we'll take these last questions. Councillor Murray-Bench.
Sir, and the first one is, Alison, you mentioned Clark Road and something about transporting through there. When one of the applicants was wanting to do stuff down on Station Road, the requirement was could not use Clark Road, and money was spent putting in slow treatments supposed to turn people off driving down there. Now the trucks just go straight over the top, a great waste of money. But so there's confusing signals coming out from what Clark Road can or can't do, and whatever Clark Road can and can't do, if you just put it all the pressure on Te Puna Road, and so it's a mess. So I think you haven't given me an answer, and I don't think you can. So my next question, sir, is to Callum. Neville told me that there are holes coming on Te Puna Station Road, and those holes are obviously from the water that's coming down, and there's no clear flow to get rid of it because it's been illegally covered over with soil. So it's got nowhere to go but go under the road and then damage it. So how damaged is Te Puna Station Road?
So there has been a tumor appear on Te Puna Station Road. It's at the western end, close to Te Puna Road. The hole that's appeared in the road is less than a metre from an asbestos cement water main, which runs along the northern side of Te Puna Station Road. So our best guess at the moment is that it's a burst water main. We've created a service request that's gone to our utilities team, and we've asked them to investigate.
Right. Is that an answer?
Right, I have last questions from Alan and then Anne.
Sorry, Mr Chair, I am conscious that there was a question within the statement by Margaret, which I can answer, which is specifically around, so the traffic calming measures that were put into Clark Road are in relation to the structure plan provisions that apply in the district plan for future development of the industrial park there. So they are not specifically related to a consent, they are related to the overall structure plan provisions that apply to the development for Te Puna Business Park.
Thanks.
And they didn't have much impact on the double-decker car carrier that went over them this morning here. Right, Councillor Allen.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir. Basically, Callum, you just mentioned about the resource consent and about vehicles turning left and right. It really does open still the issue to me as in our speak here, compliance, and how the heck do we monitor it, or how do you know that this is happening, that the people are turning the correct way? Because it is a concern. No matter what we do, how are we going to actually monitor it to make sure that things happen according to what we lay the terms down here today?
Through you, Mr Chair, so the resource consent monitoring requirements that apply to a consent are monitored through a council's compliance team. So they are undertaken generally relating to when there's complaints and scheduled monitoring periods. I guess the other thing that we have been doing in conjunction with the traffic team is looking at overall traffic monitoring of the activities and the level of vehicles going on those roads. And Callum can talk more directly to those traffic monitoring provisions that we, those traffic monitoring activities, rather than the provisions of the resource consent.
Henry, you got the final question?
So, this situation is because of what we've allowed by having light industrial down there. And we have an opportunist. We're always going to have opportunists that is causing some of this problem on Spooner Station Road. I've got two questions for you. Can you just identify what would a transporter look like? You said the person who's got the consent can actually have a transporter going up Clark Road. What would it look like? Is it someone taking a container out or?
So transporters typically for transporting heavy plant, so it would be large dump trucks, large excavators, bulldozers, that type of thing. So it'd be a standard truck with a large trailer, a long trailer on the back that was sitting quite low to the ground so that it can accommodate the height of a large item of construction plant.
Construction plant?
Yeah.
Well, so today I decided I was going to do a recce. The traffic was back down to his road and came around there. I followed a car transporter, turned left, turned right into Snodgrass, came down Burrell and went up Clark Road. Following, ahead of that was a timber truck with truck and trailer and did the same thing. And that's what those people in Clark Road are putting up with. And I witnessed the traffic coming down the other way. Some of the cars, when they saw those trucks, stopped because they're fearful. And other cars were speeding down the hill and went over onto the verge and over driveways.
Question.
So this is what we've been talking about today. My view is that I'm going to say close temporary till we decide what we're going to do with Spooner Station Road. So what are we going to do with the traffic there in Clark Road? Because that's, in making my decision, I'm concerned about that. I need to know what you're going to do about that.
So that rut runners are, I guess, a consequence of the issues on the state highway, and the issues on the state highway are not going to be resolved until the TNL is open in 2027. In terms of rut runners, there's not a lot you can do to stop them because they have a legal right to use the roads. In terms of heavy vehicles, you can stop heavy vehicles by implementing a heavy vehicle ban on Clark Road.
Supplementary question to that though. Those two trucks, the logging truck and the car and trailer one, shouldn't have been on Clark Road.
So those vehicles are not subject to the consent conditions that we discussed previously. They have a legal right to be on the road.
They do?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Right, councillors, I want to close off questions there. I do have a recommendation adjustment from staff under bullet point 3. You'll read it there. And where the words remains closed to vehicular traffic, they wish to insert on a temporary basis, subject to decisions made through the long-term plan process. So that pretty much captures what was mentioned in that opening paragraph, but puts it into the recommendation, bullet point 3, if the option is to remain closed on a temporary basis. So with that, I open it up to the floor. Yep, well, you can if you want. I mean, you can incorporate if you wish to pick it up and move something. Yep. Yeah. Okay, well, it doesn't need an amendment at this stage because we've inserted it into the motion. Yep. No, I need a mover and a seconder for something. There's some options there, so I need to hear what the option they choose. Yeah, that's the way we work around here.
So I move, is it the second number two? To temporary closure of Station Road is to
We
remain.
received the report. The significance issue is bullet point 2 and
Yes.
3 is the
So I'll
decision.
move those 1 and 2.
Are you happy for that extra wording on a temporary basis? That's not in
Yes.
front of you now, but on a temporary basis.
Until, yes,
To the long-term plan. So I have a mover. And Councillor Henry, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Joyce, open it for discussion. Mayor Denia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whilst I acknowledge the problems experienced by residents of Clark Road, these can be solved in other ways. I want to signal now that I want to work with Clark Road residents to consider how to mitigate the traffic issues there, whether a heavy traffic bylaw or bollards or closing one end. The solutions are perhaps more complex than they at first seem, but I think we can certainly move towards seeking a solution. But reopening Te Puna Station Road will create worse congestion for thousands of people on State Highway 2. It will be very expensive, and as we heard this morning, will be against the wishes of Tangata Whenua. Consultation has clearly shown no great preference one way or the other, so I'm in favour of keeping it closed, and that we discuss long-term solutions with the long-term plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Just Mayor Denia, picking up on that point, you talked about the significance of the change in the heavy vehicles using Clark Road. Would be an option be to mention that in a recommendation 4, that staff take every attempt to accelerate the that? Would that help?
I think if the mover and seconder want to include some wording along lines of consider mitigating factors for Clark Road, I'd be happy with that.
very happy to do that.
So would that need to be a 4 or a, yeah, an extra 4? Are you happy with that, Rodney Joyce? Yeah, that's the words really that staff get on to the heavy vehicle solution as a matter of priority.
Well, I think it's more than that. I don't think we should be closing down the solution at this point. It might be a heavy vehicle bylaw. It might be something else. I don't think we should be specifying it at this point.
To investigate.
Okay. Looks like the mover and second happy with that. Councillor Murray Bench.
I can't support the amendment. I listened to the submitters, and quite clearly the two-way option isn't an option for them or for us. But I look at it overall and think Te Puna Road has a problem. It's having heavy traffic going down there now. Clark Road was never intended that it should. Te Puna Station Road was meant to carry the traffic from anything that developed down there in the industrial area. And while you keep that closed, it just puts pressure back on Te Puna Road and Clark Road, unbelievably so. If you looked at your submissions on page 24, I'll read it to you. Since this road has been closed, have felt unsafe parking in the car park and walkers and cycle or run. There have been a number of homeless living in their cars with bully breed dogs roaming. The incidence of rubbish littered has increased, and the other day on walk someone had moved all the rocks in the middle of the car park. I am certain with the road open again, the rate of homeless parking and vandalism will drop. When the road was open, none of this unpleasantness happened. So in the area where, in fact, we've got freedom camping, and that's just by close to where the cliff keeps coming down, that was originally a place where boaters parked to launch their boats in days gone by. But with the sediment building up in the harbour, they can't do that anymore. So it's become a place for parking and for people to actually settle down and freedom parkers to park overnight. So it's an anti-social environment that you are creating by actually moving this, that we close this road, not two ways, but even one way. And so I can't support it for that reason alone. And the graph shows that, yes, there were division between those that want it and those that don't, but more people want it open than want it closed, even if it's quite close. And as for State Highway 2, which, as you know, should have been 4-lane to Mokoroa by 2015, and here we have this dreadful decision coming out that it won't be finished until 2027. That's a disgrace, a moral disgrace, and just shows how incompetent governments have been over the years. So I refuse to let anybody away with such nonsense, because the people locally suffer. So if you close this road, be it temporarily or to the long-term plan, that means put it on the Never Never, you are then subjecting the traffic movements to Clark Road and to Te Puna Station Road. The rat running is going to continue, and that will rat run out onto Clark Road until, in fact, that TNL is developed, which it should be. And we should be putting pressure on for that to happen more than anything else. So for the social reasons, and I accept what the iwi and the hapu are saying, and we could certainly, we need to do some work there to actually preserve their past so it becomes part of the future. But for the people who live on Te Puna Road and Clark Road, sir, I cannot accept the closure. I think it's a sop to say we'll refer it to the long-term plan. That means put it on the Never Never. We obviously missed out on the insurance when we had the dreadful storms, and one would have thought we would have got insurance from that, but obviously we didn't. So, sir, I think we're making a very bad decision, and the people who live there are the people you should be concerned about. You've got an international rose grower down there on Te Puna Station Road. It is the only place that really is truly a rural-urban mix. And so we've made mistakes in the past, that's quite clear. But I do believe that if you close this off permanently, you'll be doing everyone a huge disservice. I vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Murray Bench. Although, like I iterated before, this is not permanent. It's no part of today's discussion. So, further speakers to the motion? Councillor Coxhead.
Thank you to local kaumātua for coming in and talking to us today. And I feel like we need to have a solution that works for the whole of the Te Puna community. I find it deeply disappointing that this whole conversation's being only focused on Clark Road, when the situation with the trucks is not going to go away with the Northern Link going through, and this is not till 2027. And the truck movements are a danger and a risk to all of those in Te Puna. I mean, Te Puna Road, it's where the turn-off is down to Te Puna Station Road, is metres away from the primary school. I mean, the trucks that are roaring up and down all day and all night on Te Puna Road and all day on Clark Road, they're an accident waiting to happen. Somebody is going to get killed, and we have had a number of near misses on both roads. Both roads are not fit for purpose for the truck movements, and I am deeply concerned that something terrible is going to happen. So I also would like to see a temporary reopening one way for Te Puna Station Road, and I totally acknowledge the concerns of local iwi and hapu And I feel like there must be some way we can find some middle ground here, because I'm concerned about lives now. And it is ruining people's lives, their livelihoods. These are residential streets that these trucks are roaring up and down on, totally inappropriate for their use. And let's be honest, Station Road is not residential. So to me, I would like to see Te Puna Station Road temporarily reopened.
Thank you. Further speakers to the motion? Yep, I'm moving around to the mover and the seconder, but I have Councillor Sol wishes to speak first.
Thank you, sir. Basically, it's quite a real dilemma, because here we are going in doing something that no matter what, it's sort of like you win, I lose situations. You know, there's no real winner here. Particularly, we've got issues all the way. The reference to social issues to me is something that is important as well. But again, I come back to then, if those are the issues happening, is what's happening about the compliance. So again, are we not tending to these social issues that are happening down in that area? To me, the ability to protect the, I guess, the council from potentially more and more ongoing costs concerns me. And so, as I said before, if we go to a point where we do this, maybe the next day it gets washed away again. Maybe it doesn't. But it's like we're pouring pretty good money into something that's actually just a big bucket, a big hole. So to me, it's really not well, it's almost a no-brainer to me in the end. I don't think we can take that risk. I think as we haven't got a risk management plan on what would happen there, but we've been told what would happen, or potentially could happen. I think the other area is, though, as stated there, that a priority, an urgent addressing of the situation for Clark Road has to be really activated as an absolute priority. This is just an absolute must for the people there. It is shocking to see how many trucks are coming out of there. I've watched them several times. Today, it was definitely a rat run day as well when I came through. It was cars for miles. I actually just decided not to let them in. I decided to take my turn and go past. You know, I didn't merge as a zip, because I don't know who's local and who isn't, but I sure know that I've seen them swinging off way back earlier in the piece and taking these rat runs. So to me, sir, I think at present it's a closure or temporary closure is the story, but please let's see some action about how we address the ongoing issue. Thank you.
Councillor Joyce.
So I agree with Councillor Cox here that Te Puna traffic problems are wide and deep and go beyond this issue. The greater we, you know, not just the council, have not done well by Te Puna people over many years. You can add lots of people in there, developers, courts, whatever, but yeah, it's a mess. It's a big mess. I welcome the news that the one resource consent that's forced to use Clark Road is being worked on, but the bigger issue seems to be here is rat runners. You know, if it was just one company's trucks going up and down, that would be an issue, but it's not the issue we're facing with. If you've got logging trucks and car carriers going down Clark Road, the issue is not the industrial estate at the moment. The issue is the rat runners, along with a large number of cars. Opening Te Puna Station Road would just move the problem. But there's also another issue with that. You know, as it says in the report, to reopen it would need to do geotechnical analysis. And there wasn't, I actually forgot to ask that question, so forgive me, but we have no idea what that geotechnical analysis would cost. We don't know what it would find out. We don't even know if we can reopen that road at this point, because we'd have to check. Even as Margaret Murray Bench, my colleague here, says, where the cliff keeps falling down. We actually don't know yet whether it's even stable enough to reopen, because cliffs keep falling down, some on top of the road, some below. And then, of course, we also have the issues raised by the hapu, which needs to be taken seriously as well. I mean, hopefully TNL will fix the problem. We're not really going to know until it opens. But in the meantime, Clark Road people in particular have a real issue on their hands. And we need to address that. And so I'm very pleased with the suggestion that we add that into our staff to deal with that as a priority. There's no good answer here, but unfortunately opening an unstable road and sinking more money into it, which we don't even know how much it would really cost to reopen, is not the best option at this stage, which is why I've seconded the motion.
Right, team, I'm about to let the mover have the final before we put the vote. Councillor Henry.
Address a few comments that have been said. In terms of the people living, I'm not aware of them living down around Station Road, hanging around. You could say that to about every area around our Rohe. I mean, in Katikati before, around the time that erosion happened down there on the Wairau River, we didn't have people living in our town centres like we do now. We didn't have people living in around, 3 people permanently living around the hall in Katikati. We also had the experience of increased inflation, which actually made people more vulnerable to that and coming out and not being able to afford to have houses and living in the spaces that they can find within their community. So I don't necessarily hold with that argument about the reason why to keep, say, Te Puna Station Road open. So as a councillor who travels this road at varying times, and sometimes when I'm late as well, but from 6:30 onwards, I have never seen a lot of traffic banking up onto Puna Station Road to get into that roundabout. Maybe I might have said 7 cars, and that's the longest line. Well, I don't think that's a problem at this stage. If we close both those roads, yes, that was going to be a really long thing. But that road was designed for carrying that traffic, and that's what it should be doing. But it still creates that if we're doing what I'm just moved to do, it's still that problem of Clark Road. We've got to address that. So Councillor Coxhead's comments about, and this is what I was alluding to before, and it's nothing to do with the staff here now, but somewhere along the line, somebody had their eye off the ball in terms of Te Puna and its spatial development. That business park is, I mean, it's a nightmare trying to drive around a car around all those places. So we have inherited that problem. But Alan made some good points, and I would concur with that. Are we going to, by opening it, are we going to be spending good money after bad, and then that good money is turns bad, and as the erosion will continue with climate change? So there are a lot of reasons, and what I've just stated here, there's 4 of them, why we should actually keep it permanent and explore all those reasonings and solutions through the long-term plan.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. I just want to reiterate, you did say the word permanent again. Recommendation 3 is again a temporary basis, subject to basis made through the long-term plan process, dragging later in the year. And the very brief 4 is that staff investigate options to mitigate traffic concerns on Clark Road as a priority, and that was movements. So I'll put that motion.
Also, before you put it, another clause asking that monitoring be done on the Freedom camping area down where
Sorry, point of order, the right of reply has been given, and that's the
quite right.
end of debate.
But I thought the chairman could use his discretion.
I don't think it's needed. Look, I go down there, it's not as bad as that made out, but that's for another discussion. But I will take rubbish bags in the future and collect rubbish for my sins as well.
And you can do the traffic count yourself, Don.
Sorry to be flippant. Look, team, we have recommendations 1, 2, 3 and 4. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? I declare it carried. Divisions asked for. Could those who don't agree with the recommendations please raise their hands? Might be a short list. 2, Coxhead and Murray Bench, and there's no abstention, so all the other 9 are for it. Thank you. I declare it carried. Right, councillors, I'm conscious of the time and councillor Granger's itching to get his. Now, when I read on both agendas for both meetings, there is quite a bit of overlap, and what becomes monitoring for this financial year, which Mr Henderson will have a part to play in the audit committee coming up in finance, there's an overlap, and I had questions on both, so we're still fine-tuning it a little bit, and if we stay on the same day every day, I might have to work with Cedric on how we quite do that. So what I'm going to do is, and I'll talk about the order, I want to really start with the bigger budget first. So start with transportation, work through the three waters, and then the rest, I call them, not to lay them. So in terms of questions for the report, barring just accepting it, is there any questions raised in the scorecards for capital works projects? And I just have one to start off. Cedric, I looked online and the seal extension list was last updated on January 2023. Is there a chance we can have an update on how things are going with that, with the seal extension list? And there was Work Road, Johnson Road, Rotoahu Road coming up, well, Callum might, but the others haven't been updated as to.
So Kumikumi Road is well advanced construction-wise. The next seal extension site we're doing is Thorn Road, which should be starting in the next 4 weeks, probably.
Which road was that, Callum? Sorry.
Thorn Road.
Thorn Road, right.
Thorn Road, yeah.
While I'm here, yep.
What are we doing now and what page?
Well, see all those 62 onwards. Sorry, so I've just taken the executive order to start with transportation, work through the water, just pretty much in terms of the budget spend. There's not a whole lot of representation in other.
So we're still in the same meeting?
Yep, we're still in the same meeting, and you'll probably get a second chance to rehash this. If you have a look at Murray's agenda coming up, some of it's here, and depending on his chairman's how strict he's going to be, there's going to be a bit of overlap. So my second question on the roading one is the substantial underspent capital budget so far, sitting at 34 million. What is the latest on Mokoroa projects, which is a massive chunk of that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So at the moment, the team are working diligently to look at how we spend our capital programs. We've just awarded a contract for our resealing. And Capital Pro Works is underway as well. We're also working through the maintenance spend as well with our cycle crews and slowly building pavement programs. In terms of our Mokoroa, that project is tracking along slowly but steadily. The key challenge for that project at the moment is looking at stormwater on the southern side and the challenges with Powerco in terms of undergrounding the cables and the delay that is causing. So staff are working with Becca and all the different stakeholders on how we can speed that process up. But we have started the stripping and site works on that project. And we're hoping for the first program, noting the detailed design procurement in the next month or so.
So unlikely much construction before July the 1st.
You'll see. You'll definitely see some construction. We'll definitely see a bit of rebating and services and potentially some service relocation. But until we can resolve the power and temporary stormwater pond, that's going to be the challenge.
Right, councillors, any further points you have? Councillor Henry?
Around the scorecard, and I'm very pleased to see that the representation, while we're not up to where we should be, we've actually increased in our doing well percentage. But when you have your little meetings before we have our big meeting, do you ever discuss any percentage? Is that ever part of what you discuss in terms of performance and monitoring?
Like I said, my focus was on the big numbers, and really representation isn't a big one in terms of projects.
That is one thing.
Yeah, I know.
They're all the things are in
Yeah,
here.
we certainly look at all the scorecards here, and like I said, I've highlighted a
Okay.
few. I've got a few more on the waters coming up about the phosphorus and the nitrogen, but I'm getting to
Oh,
that.
you go,
This is
you're well
about-
done, but you're not doing well here, you question that sort of thing?
This is to bring you up to speed, council. This is your opportunity once every 8 weeks. Yep. Yeah, we certainly do, raise it, yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, just after a bit of update, in regard to the two Te Puke ones being number 1 road and number 4 road bridge. So in regard to number 1 road, just to get it into the public arena, what work is scheduled to be done there in the next couple of weeks? Oh, sorry, in the next couple of months. Yep.
So to try and slow down traffic entering the urban part of number 1 road, we're going to implement some traffic calming where the speed limit changes from 80 to 50. That will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're also looking at the bottom section of number 1 road where there's issues with the shape of the road. We're going to do a survey of that section and see what's required in terms of shaping and smoothing, just to try and address some of the vibration and noise complaints that we've had. Probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to seal the upper section of number 1 road that's roughly from the water treatment works all the way up to the intersection with number 2 road. And we'll continue with the development of the design and consent application for the pavement rehab and seal widening project. We're still trying to resolve stormwater issues there, but largely the geometric design is done and the pavement design is done. So it's stormwater is our main concern at the moment. Number 4 road bridge, we've recently employed Becca to do the investigation and design of the permanent solution. It's possible we will not use it to design and construct solution, but we have included early contractor involvement in the scope of their work. So effectively what that means is contractors get involved at an early stage of the design process to comment on constructability and make sure that the final design that Becca come up with is one that can be constructed and I guess in the most efficient manner, safest and most efficient manner possible.
Just to follow up on the number 4 road bridge, it was conditional on it going into the preferred location. Is that now confirmed that it can actually go in that location?
So Becca have done an initial check on the geometric alignment to confirm that long vehicles can actually navigate the bridge in the S-bend on the southern side of the bridge. I've asked Becca to repeat that exercise and just basically provide a drawing which demonstrates that it can be done. So they've checked it once. I've asked them to check it twice before they get really into the design process. But at the moment, we're extremely confident that option 1 is feasible.
Thank you.
Good road bench.
Could I please ask Cedric, where are we going with taking in our own contract, developing our contract instead of Westlink?
So we'll be coming back to council with the outcome of the S17A in April. And from there, it's got clear recommendations on how to proceed. And then we'll be having a series of workshops with elected members on the performance framework, what it might look like in terms of, is it multiple contracts, 1 contract, what does that level of service potentially look like? And then from there, taking all those recommendations and developing the contract model and intervention strategy, and then going out to the market for procurement for a commencement date of June 25.
So we're coping okay in the meantime?
Yes, absolutely. I think the key for me, one of the key measures that I've noticed is that with our implementation of our cycling crew, we've seen a 40% reduction in SRs coming through. So what that tells me is that we're getting out there, filling potholes, picking up litter, cleaning signs, and taking more of a proactive approach. The team are making really positive progress with the capital program. It is difficult. There's a lot of design work required to enable these projects to start. having the break in the contract and having designs halfway through. And then, as Councillor Murray would have seen in his ARF report, there's some challenges with closing that contract out and getting information. So the team are looking at how we can get quick wins and still spend that money in a prudent way on sites that really need attention. So that's where the challenge is, but I think we're progressing well and we're getting contracts out, which is the main thing.
By the way, Kumi Kumi Road are absolutely thrilled with the work that's being done there. Is that under the old contract or under the new one?
Technically under the new one.
Right, I've got Councillor Coxhead and then Anne Henry.
Just a question. When can we expect completion of the Heron Crescent development?
That project in terms of the actual 26 units, so we've essentially just started with Island Construction, so we obviously have awarded them the tender, we're setting up the PCG group, the structure, and my understanding is that we're working through just the initial phase of actually starting the establishment, but I haven't got the completion date on me. I would have thought about 12 months, 12, 13, 15 months.
Adele has something to add over from the bleachers.
Through the chair, the anticipated completion date is the middle of next year, and that's what we've included in some of our forecasting for the long-term plan. Thanks.
Councillor Henry.
I've come back up the pages, and I'm on page 65 now. And the question is stormwater, Waihi Beach. And the question is around the single cell lines SAS lagoon. And the question I've got is that the lagoon that failed last trimester, triennium, I mean? Are we still dealing with that?
Yeah, correct, that is the
Okay.
one in question.
So has a question been asked to the insurance company, will they pay us a payout with the increased inflation and da-da-da-da? Well, you know, I know that sounds ridiculous, but we've been waiting a long time for this, working with the insurance company over there.
So yes, we are working with the insurers, and my understanding is we're expecting an outcome in 2 months. If we can have further discussion on that with the workshop later on in terms of all the different treatment plants.
Thank you.
But I understand it is progressing well, and last update from me was 2 months away.
Yeah, it seems a long time to me, but.
Right, Councillor Joyce, and then we're looking to pretty much wrap
Yeah,
this up.
as I say, because you started on roading, but we've gone
Yeah.
on to other topics now.
Sorry, yeah. Going forward, I hope that we can maybe start at the top and work our way
That's
down.
right. So
Not that
I held back because
small budgets are less
Mine
important.
are not
but
on roading.
they're kind of
On
less
the
important.
Kari outfall and the problems there, obviously I know the long term will be dealt with later, but in the short term, we had a recent report of a leak, and I think we were told that it might have been instruments rather than an actual physical leak. But we haven't heard any more since then. Did it turn out to be a physical leak, the latest leak, or was it actually an instrument failure?
Yeah, instrument failure wasn't a leak.
Good, that's good news. On page 71, the Dave Hume pool, and I know it's not roading or Three Waters,
No, that's good.
but it is a major project.
Yeah.
The contracts, the problems, it was referred to briefly the other day with Mr. Watson, but what are the issues that you're having there? Because people are sort of raising questions in the community about what's going on because it seems to be taking a long time to start. And I know there are real reasons for that, but we need to tell people.
Yeah, my understanding is that I'll have to come back to you on the full outcome of the delay, but my understanding is that we've undertaken some early procurement for materials, and there has been some delay in the design and other bits and pieces, but the team are working with the contractor on program. But we have tried to mitigate by early procurement of materials to try and pull the program back.
Cool. I gather one of the problems is stormwater drains not where they're supposed to be, and some of the other things that you're dealing with when you're dealing with old property. Yeah. And was that contract, I can't remember, was that contract done through a competitive tender or was it a preferred contractor?
I'll have to check that, but my understanding it was competitive.
And one last one on page 72, but it could be more Murray's committee on the resource consents. But I'm guessing probably we'll discuss that as part of the finance and risk but just where we're up to in terms of tracking that. We've got numbers in here, but I don't really know how they track against budget, what we were expecting. Or shall I leave that to the audit and risk? Murray, I'm happy to, as long as we get a chance to discuss it.
Maybe you've given Alison enough warning, although I see she slipped out. So
I guess we wait for the next committee.
Councillor Margaret.
Yes, a quick question on Proll Road, which looks such a mess. When do we expect that contract to be completed? And I see that you're putting another one in to get to the railway line, and that's sometime this year, but the first section is a mess. How long until it's completed?
So my understanding it will be looking at early 2025. So what you'll see at the moment, it's obviously heavily in the earthworks phase. So by the end of the summer, we've completed the earthworks and put the metal down and sort of stabilised the earth around it. And then the team will be focusing on putting in the curb and channel and the pavement and the landscaping. It's obviously a significant length, so it'll be structured over the two construction seasons just through the sheer amount of work. The other project is obviously part of the structure plan from Proll Road to the rail. We're looking at tendering that in the next month or so with anticipating start date of October.
Does the contractor work 7 days a week, or are they 8 to 5 and then go home?
Generally, from my experience, they're probably Monday to Friday and then a half day on Saturday, and probably start work at 6 and finish at 5.
Right, looking to wrap this up. Richard, you've got a point there.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be just about roading.
No, anything, any of those scorecards, really. I just highlighted a couple of the big ones, and there were some big numbers.
This is a big number. So the Te Puke wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, I was just concerned about some comments on there about high construction escalation. So needing to increase the budget, so that's going to affect our long-term planning budget. And then there's concerns about the design performance and ability to keep to the programs are a real concern. And also the relationship with the local iwi is strained. So can you comment about that, please?
Yep, no, those are fair comments. So the Te Puke wastewater treatment plant is under stress at the moment in terms of a project. Probably starting from the top, we have had some challenges with the design consultant. There appears to be some confusion around when we're initially going to upgrade the existing plant, but then it seemed to make sense to actually just build a new plant from a financial and new asset perspective. So there are a lot of variations and a lot of challenges with their program delivery. And I guess being upfront, our concern is that they are under-resourced and not keeping program. So staff are escalating it with their senior management, and we've engaged a third consultant, as you'd say, to look at these variations from an independent perspective and see if there's any validity to them. So the project team is working hard with the design consultant to try and get them back on program. We have an indicative date of 16th of April to deliver the detailed design for that project. The iwi relationship is challenging at the moment, so the relationship with obviously Tangata Whenua looking at the resource consent. We have just recently, as of Friday, had a relationship reset or one of two wānanga, just to look at, I guess, how we participate together and how we can partner better. I guess a lot of it's come down to a lot of that relationship has been transactional in nature with the resource consent, so it's now moving more towards a relationship-based, I guess a more values-based relationship with an understanding on both parties in terms of budget, wellbeing of the waiari, and how we can better work together. So I'm really, really confident that we can get that back on track. We are working with them right now on the resource consent and making progress on there. So I think the key is the project is struggling at the moment, but we are taking proactive steps to pull it back in. We are seeing from the market when we're going out to tender overseas in terms of UVs, aerators, and different bits and pieces that there still appears to be that overhang from COVID where a lot of those materials skyrocketed in price. So we are managing that and looking at multiple suppliers to see where we can pull costs back.
So ask about timelines. So we've obviously got increased housing, plus the Rangiora Business Park is going to bring capacity into that. So how are we doing in scheduling with, that development?
Yeah. So those are part of this conversation we're having around program and timing with Quayside. With Quayside and expecting to potentially have titles in 25 or 34 in the end of this year. So I guess we'll be working with them in terms of what their build profile and timing is. I'm not anticipating that we're going to need temporary measures in terms of demand, but we are very cognizant of the program.
Right,
Super.
councillors, I'm looking to pretty much
Happy to move the recommendation, sir, on
receive
page
the report.
62.
Thank you. Councillor Daly, you wish to second that? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, well, a lot of it I borrowed from when I jumped to the agenda for Murray's committee coming up. A whole lot of it's in the Q2 report, and Sarah's going to be involved in. Some of that capital project monitoring is actually dovetailed. So this is the first time we've done the two committees on the same day, and there is an element of overlaps, and maybe working with Cedric and the financial team will work towards streamlining. We stay in our own lanes a little bit. So hopefully you can ask those questions shortly, Grant. I think you'll have the opportunity. So I'll put that, I'll move Murray Bench, second Daly. All those in favour? Clear, it carried. And with that, I declare morning tea on, and then welcome Stuart to the house, and he can take his seat, and I'll swap with Murray, and we'll find out how much of Murray's lunch I've cut